She nursed her sick mother for years. Her mother's last will left everything to the new gardener. The lawyer, Mr. Davies, cleared his throat, the sound unnaturally loud in the sterile, wood-paneled office. Emily stared at the polished mahogany table, seeing her own reflection, a pale, hollowed-out ghost. The words did not just sting, they hollowed out what was left of her. For 5 years, her world had shrunk to the 4 walls of her mother's bedroom, the cloying scent of medication, the endless drone of the television, the sharp, demanding ring of a bedside bell. She had traded her career, her friends, her life, for this. For a promise, unspoken but always assumed, that the family home, the garden her great-grandmother had planted, would be her reward. Her inheritance. Instead, it belonged to Lucas, a man who had been in their lives for less than 6 months, a quiet young man with dirt under his nails and an unreadable expression. Mr. Davies slid a piece of paper across the table. You can contest it. Claim undue influence. But Eleanor was of sound mind, according to her doctor. It will be a fight. A very public, very ugly fight. The choice hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Walk away with nothing, swallowed by the injustice, or drag her mother's name, and her own, through the mud for a chance at what was rightfully hers. She stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. I need to speak to him. She found Lucas in the garden, of course, tending to her mother's prized orchids in the greenhouse. He did not look triumphant. He just looked tired. Why? She asked, her voice cracking. He did not turn around, his hands moving gently over a pale, almost luminous flower. She wanted to protect them, he said softly. The sheer absurdity of it, the insult, sent a wave of cold fury through her. Protect the flowers? From me? She wanted to scream, to smash the delicate glass panes of the greenhouse. She would fight. She would burn it all to the ground if she had to. When she returned to the lawyer's office, a storm raging inside her, Mr. Davies handed her a small, lacquered box. Your mother left this for you. With an instruction. I was only to give it to you if you decided to contest the will. Her decision to fight was a declaration of war. The box sat on the peeling nightstand of her new reality, a bleak, roadside motel room that smelled of stale smoke and regret. She opened it. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, was not a confession or an apology, but a single, perfectly preserved orchid petal and a small, folded note. The note read, "Some things are worth more than houses." It was a taunt from beyond the grave, a final twist of the knife. The petal felt like a symbol of everything she had lost, and it hardened her resolve into something sharp and brittle. The legal battle began, and it was everything Mr. Davies had promised. Ugly. Her savings evaporated into legal fees. Friends who had praised her devotion now whispered behind her back, their pity curdling into judgment. The local paper ran a story with a headline that made her feel physically ill, grieving daughter sues humble gardener over mother's fortune. Lucas remained a ghost, his silence a masterful performance of quiet dignity while she was painted as a greedy, ungrateful child. She saw him once at the grocery store, his cart filled with potting soil and fertilizer, and he simply met her furious gaze with an expression of profound sadness. It was infuriating. Her life spiraled downwards. She sold her car to pay for another month of the motel and the mounting legal bills. Each night, she would stare at the ceiling, the cryptic note replaying in her mind, a riddle she could not solve, fueling a rage that was starting to feel like the only thing she had left. Then came the final blow. Mr. Davies called, his voice grim. They deposed your mother's physician, Dr. Alastair. His testimony will be damaging, Emily. He prepared to testify about Eleanor's mental state, her clarity, and about conversations they had concerning you. The threat was clear. They were going to destroy her, not just in court, but as a person. She was standing at the edge of a cliff, and the fall felt endless. That night, she could not sleep. The thought of Dr. Alastair, a man who had always treated her with kindness, testifying against her was a betrayal too far. Driven by a desperate need for an answer, any answer, she drove her rented car to the house. Under the cold light of the moon, the garden looked alien, a place she no longer recognized. She went to the greenhouse, the heart of the dispute. The door was locked, but she knew where her mother had always hidden the spare key, under a loose flagstone near the rainwater barrel. It was still there. Inside, the air was warm and humid, thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers. But it was not her mother's greenhouse anymore. One entire section was now partitioned off with plastic sheeting, and inside, under sterile grow lights, stood rows upon rows of a single type of orchid, the same one from the petal in the box. Scientific charts lined the walls, detailing growth cycles and chemical compositions. This was not a hobby. It was a laboratory. I wondered if you'd come. Lucas was standing in the doorway, his silhouette blocking the moonlight. He was not angry. He walked past her and held up a medical file. It had her mother's name on it. He opened it to a page detailing a diagnosis, Huntington's chorea. A rare, degenerative, and hereditary neurological disease. It affects the mind long before the body, he said, his voice flat. Paranoia. Agitation. The belief that those closest to you will betray you. Then he pulled out a second file. This one had her name on it. It's a dominant gene, Emily. A 50% chance. Your mother had you tested as a child. He paused, letting the weight of the silence press down on her. You have it, too. The symptoms will likely begin within the next 5 years. The world tilted. The lawsuit, the note, the will, it all snapped into a new, horrifying focus. Lucas was a botanist. His life's work was this specific, genetically engineered orchid. Its extract was the basis for an experimental treatment, the only one in the world that could halt the progression of the disease. Her mother had not disinherited her. She had been trying to save her life. And Emily, in her blind rage and grief, had just spent months trying to legally dismantle her only cure. She sank onto a stool, the sterile light of the grow lamps making her skin look waxy and pale. The cruelty she had imagined in her mother was a phantom, the real monster was the disease, a silent thief that had stolen her mother piece by piece and was now coming for her. The will was not an act of malice, but an act of desperate, terrified love, a gambit to ensure the research would continue, to protect the cure from a daughter who, her mother feared, would sell the house and unknowingly discard her own salvation. The note, "Some things are worth more than houses," was not a taunt. It was a plea. The next morning, Emily walked into Mr. Davies' office. The fight was gone from her eyes, replaced by a quiet, unnerving calm. "Drop the case," she said. Immediately. She did not offer an explanation. She did not need to. At a press conference she called herself, standing alone on the courthouse steps, she read a short, prepared statement. She spoke of misunderstanding her mother's final wishes and announced she was withdrawing her claim to honor a legacy far more important than property, a legacy of botanical preservation. The narrative did not just flip, it evaporated. There was no more villain, no more victim. There was only a daughter, finally at peace. She never set foot in the house as a resident again. Instead, she became a frequent visitor to the greenhouse. Lucas taught her how to pollinate the delicate blossoms, how to monitor the nutrient levels, how to care for the fragile plants that held her future in their roots. One afternoon, as they worked in comfortable silence, she looked at her hands, covered in the same rich soil her mother had once worked. She had spent years nursing a woman consumed by an illness, only to discover that woman's final act was to nurse her right back. She had lost a home she thought she was owed, only to be given a life she never knew she would have to fight for.